women who get together with other women are healthier, happier, and stronger.
Now we can make some figure eights with our hips. Figure eight, figure eight, figure eight, figure eight. Woo!
By the time I met Mickey, I had already contemplated suicide and I was developing a plan. That's how dark my life had gotten.
Because I'm a woman, phenomenal woman, that's me.
Hello and welcome to Prime Time for Women TV, the show for and about women in their prime. I was recently asked what women in their prime means. Well, let me tell you, women in their prime have lived a little and they've learned a lot. They've made some mistakes, but they grew because of them. They are women who are asking, what do I want? What can I accomplish? How can I make a difference? Women in their prime aren't afraid to seek these answers to old questions because now, at this time of their life, they feel supported, empowered, and encouraged by other women on the same journey. I'm excited to welcome back my guests, Daphne Smith-Jackson, Darcy Easton, Angela Petrie, and Anila Hack. I can't wait to hear what these women have to say about today's topic, which is the Maryland governor recently declared 2020 the Year of the Woman. And also on March 8th, we're going to be celebrating International Women's Day. It's a global event that celebrates social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women and advocates for gender equality. In keeping with these celebrations, Prime Time for Women will be hosting events at local businesses that are committed to working toward equality for all and truly understand that an equal world is an enabled world. So we're so glad that you're all here today and we get to talk about this topic. Let me start off today's conversation by asking all of you if there was a time when you experienced a sense of empowerment in confronting sexism or gender inequality in your lives. Is there a story that you would want to share?
I would like to say I have evolved through promoting women. I was a youngster when women were expected to either be a secretary or a nurse. You got married and had children. And for some reason, I never fit that mold. And it was always, well, I can do that, or why can't I do that? And it's now that women have that opportunity to do the things that I myself was not allowed to even consider.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I do remember one time I was speaking at a county commissioners meeting, and I was explaining very ardently a particular viewpoint. And I can remember one of the commissioners said, you know, Bernadette, you just don't understand. And it was so condescending. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm just not going to let it ride. I put my hands on my hip and I said, you know, I understand. I just don't agree. And it felt so good to be able to say that. Yeah. So anyhow, how about you, Daphne? Was there ever a time in your life, or?
You know, interesting enough, no, I haven't experienced that. However, I'm eager to hear what anybody else has experienced because I'm sure I've got a lot of life left to live, right? And I'm sure I'll be faced with it at some point or another. So it's going to be interesting to hear the other stories about how these other women have handled something like that.
Yeah.
I think for me, it's not any one specific thing like you're speaking of that would come out in the forefront of my memory, but it's definitely that subtle, everyday, day to day, when you think back to your life experiences, moving away from home, you know, where you're comfortable, into a big city or college, or even your first bosses, perhaps, because that kind of sexism and the gender inequality is so prevalent, we maybe don't pick up on it. Obviously, in this day and age, it's much more in the forefront, and people are talking about it. And I think the challenge is to look at those everyday occurrences and challenge those by being strong, by just facing it, and not necessarily calling it out, but just by your actions, just pushing right past it and pushing it back.
Well, I have found that by persevering, actually, and doing things that were not for the norm for somebody. I've never followed the rules, so I suppose that's I'm the prime example.
Exactly. Yeah. Speaking of women who kind of set up examples just by the way they live, I grew up going to a swimming pool, and all the girls had to wear bathing caps, and the boys back in the day when I was growing up all had longer hair than the girls.
But they didn't have to wear caps.
Right, and so my mom pitched a fit because she had 7 daughters, and they said, too bad, you have to wear bathing caps. So my mom went out and bought, it was very embarrassing, these bathing caps that had blue hair. And we all wore the bathing caps with the blue hair. It was sort of like we were obeying the rules, but tweaking it. So my mom was a little bit of my hero. She was definitely on the edge there. Yeah.
For me, as you can see, coming from Pakistan and coming from a different background, there always a man has been superior and woman has been more shallow, or more, not shallow, more protective. We have been very, very protective over there. But when I came to America and I changed those, from my end, I changed those boundaries. And having one daughter, raising her with 3 boys, and having one daughter, she is all-rounder. She did everything. I never hold her back. And when I never hold her back, I never hold myself back either. So I keep moving, I keep
Living by example.
breaking those barriers that it's okay, we can do it, I can do it, you can do it. If you can do it, I can do it. And having a more male dominating house, having 3 boys in the house, and when I was growing up, I had 3 brothers as well. So I was always with them. So
yeah. Well, I hope that our viewers are thinking about their own stories, and we're going to take a quick commercial break. But first, I want to thank Meredith Health for their support of Prime Time for Women and the health and well-being of our community. For more information on Meredith Health, their providers and the services, visit meredithhealth.com. Stay tuned, we'll be right back after this commercial break.
I was afraid, I was in pain, and I was on medications. I didn't want to be just another number. I wanted to be somewhere not far from my family, and somewhere that I knew I had the right doctor. The staff was simply wonderful. The manner, the professionalism, the protocol, it's 100%.
Music makes an incredible impact in the lives of children, but some students in our schools cannot afford instruments. The Maryland Symphony Orchestra Instrument Bank collects musical instruments for these students to use in local schools, instruments donated by generous community members like you. Do you have musical instruments you no longer use? Contact the Maryland Symphony Orchestra today. Donate an instrument and change a child's life.
Access to high-speed internet is critical for school-aged children. Since 2014, Antietam Broadband and Washington County Public Schools have partnered to connect students and families in need with low-cost, high-speed internet service at home. Every child deserves an opportunity to succeed. Ask your child's teacher for more information on the Antietam EduNet program. A message from Washington County Public Schools and Antietam Broadband.
The DVR. It's changed the way we watch TV. And now, Antietam Broadband takes you to the next level with TiVo. Find your favorites on cable or streaming video faster with voice-activated integrated search. Record up to 6 channels at once and watch from any TV in your home. TiVo from Antietam Broadband. It will change your life. Call today or visit AntietamBroadband.com to learn more.
Join your host, Mark Keller, for this year's Home Show Showcase on WCL-TV. Our video crew went booth to booth, familiarizing you with an elite cross-section of exhibitors and the products and services they offer. Experience it all as we take you up close and personal with Antietam's Home Show Showcase. Tune in weekdays at 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. and every weekend at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. for the Home Show Showcase on WCL-TV, channels 806 and 6, and streaming on the WCL-TV on the Go app available for your mobile device. Washington County Gives raises money essential to our nonprofits and the services they provide our community. Here are a few examples.
Please support the Commission on Aging by helping us reduce waiting lists for critical programs for vulnerable seniors.
Your contributions help fund Maryland Entertainment Group's next season, including our annual free Shakespeare in the Park.
Advanced giving starts April 28th at WashingtonCountyGives.org. Remember, every give counts.
You know the difference between a minor fall, and a major fall. But do you know where to go when they occur? If you are having an urgent but non-emergency healthcare problem like a minor fall, flu symptoms, or sinus infection, visit our urgent care center. We are open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day. For a major fall and other critical or complex medical matters, you should come right into our emergency department. Now you know where to go.
Welcome back. We were just talking about women who have served as role models. And you know, it's not just role models that inform our thinking. I often think that it's also we're inspired by books and movies. So I thought maybe we could see if you all have some favorite books or movies you want to recommend. Maybe we should do a movie party. I don't know. What movies and books are you reading these days?
Well, I'm not a book person, but I was inspired by Gone with the Wind. I wanted to be that adventuresome and that outgoing and doing for myself. As a kid, I went to see Gone with the Wind several times just to make sure that I was following that example. I was going to do that.
That's great. So Scarlett. Yeah, there you go.
For me, a book that I've most recently read, it was called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leith Babel. And so these are two gentlemen, they were Navy SEALs, and they kind of used these stories of how they were out in the battlefield, out in Iraq, and how they take those things and they bring it back and teach you how to lead and how to win. And so for me, every day, right, you know, you go through, life is a battlefield every single day, you know, and so you just use those qualities that they were talking about to lead and win. Not only, so I use it a lot in business with my team, but then I also use it a lot in life, right? You've got to be able to lead, you've got to own and accept everything you do and figure out a way to change that, which ultimately helps you to win. So,
and is your team, did you have your team read that book, or?
I have not had them read it yet, so I've kind of been taking notes from the book and I've been applying them in the office.
And are you seeing?
Yeah, and I am seeing great results from it, you know.
Yeah.
And so I think at some point they probably should read it, but right now it's mine.
Yeah.
It's my little secret.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, they think you're very smart.
They're going to watch this magazine and they're going to be on to you.
That's out the bag.
How about you, Anil or Angela?
For me, like I do religious study a lot with the women, what is their rights and how the woman should be move forward and do things properly as well, because I have to cover two aspects, being a human being and being a Muslim woman. So I read about Prophet's first wife, Khadija, Razila Talano, peace be upon him, because she was running her own business when he got married with her, his first wife. So it really inspired me. How did she was running in that time, having like big.
And how long ago was that?
It was like I don't know, but it slipped out from my mind. But it was a long time ago when the Islam came into process. So that time that was his first wife, and then his daughter Fatima. She's my role model as well. She led the war.
Okay.
So she led the really war on that time. How did she do it? What did she do it? It's really inspiring to me to see that in that kind of surrounding, if she can do it, definitely we can do a lot at this point when we have so much freedom and so much freedom of speech. So that's what I believe.
Okay. Angela, you have any good books to recommend?
You know, one of my favorite books, I have two books to talk about that just came to my mind today, but one of my favorite books was written several years ago, and I forget her name, but it's called Butter, Blood, and Bones, and it's by the woman who started the famous restaurant in New York City, Prune, and it's been out for several years now, but I've read it like 8 times because it's this story of this young girl who essentially her family life blows up, and it's her whole story of how she comes from young teenagehood all the way through young adulthood, and really perseveres. And I love food, so I love reading about food. That's one book that I definitely think everybody should read, just in terms of that. And the other book I'm just started reading is Ezra Klein's new book, Why We're Polarized. And one of the things that scares me the most about the times that we live in right now is this huge divisiveness. So we're talking about all this stuff that connects women and connects our cultures and connects our activities and our growth, but our culture, our politics have been so divided across the world, but particularly in the United States. And I think that understanding how we got to where we got to is very, very important.
Yeah, so when I think about a book that I just picked it up, I haven't read it yet, but it's called Grandma Atwood's Walk, and it's about this 67-year-old woman who hiked the Appalachian Trail just with her little kids on. And to me, it's inspiring, partly because people said, "You can't do that," and she's like,
"Well, I can't
I'm
do
doing
it.
what the heck? I'm doing it.
Story of my life.
And that's right. And I just think that that's inspiring, not to have that limitation imposed. But I also am looking forward to reading Jojo Moyes' new book, which is called Give Her Stars, and that is going to be our Primetime for Women book in March, this coming March. So if anybody wants to join us, we meet on the third Tuesday of the month. But let me just quickly ask you, we're talking about this pretty big age span here. Darcy's talking about Gone with the Wind. And there's been a lot of changes in our world in the last 50 to 100 years. In your lifetime, what has been the biggest change that you've really felt has impacted your life?
I would have to say it's this real dichotomy of when I moved to West Virginia, moved from DC, and we moved out to the country to a farmhouse kind of out in the country before DSL or any high-speed internet, anything came. So that was like in the early 90s. And I don't feel like I'm that old, but to think back, at that point in time when I had young babies and basically no connection in that way, to now, to where we are now with the connectedness and all the great things, but also all the hazards of technology and raising kids in that time period. So my kids were born in the early 90s, mid 90s, where they were that first generation pushing through that grew up with cell phones, that grew up with screens. And I shudder to think, I love all the technology and the great things that brings to us, but I shudder to think what
it's a more complicated time, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Were you going to say something about that?
No, I was just agreeing. Yes and no, right? I was just agreeing it is a more complicated time with technology. It brings a whole different dynamic, and you don't tend to spend time with people now because of technology. You're constantly doing this. On the flip side of that, being a business owner, and I do a lot with technology, I love technology.
Of course.
So it's got its pros and its cons,
Right.
But people don't talk to each other.
But that's part of
that's my story. People just don't communicate. I've gone to dinner and seen people with their thumbs going like this rather than even conversing with people across the table.
Well, that's
we're setting an example.
People have to communicate to each other.
Yes.
And that probably is the biggest thing that I've seen in my 90 years. People don't talk to each other, they don't visit, they don't socialize, there's no interaction.
Right. Well, Primetime for Women's working to fix that, because we know that there's all kinds of positive health benefits when we really do connect.
That's right.
And so, later in the show, you'll have a chance and opportunity to really encourage people to turn up at community events where they can connect.
Right.
With that said, we're getting ready to take a quick commercial break, but I just wanted to say these are some really big questions that we're pondering. It's a lot to think about, so thank you for sharing your thoughts, and I'd really encourage our viewers to share your ideas and your thoughts to these same questions on our Facebook page. We want to connect with you in real time, but also want to connect with you through social media. We want to use these resources that we have to build those connections. So stay with us. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
I was afraid, I was in pain, and I was on medications. I didn't want to be just another number. I wanted to be somewhere not far from my family, and somewhere that I knew I had the right doctor. The staff was simply wonderful. The manner, the professionalism, the protocol, it's 100%.
Music makes an incredible impact in the lives of children, but some students in our schools cannot afford instruments. The Maryland Symphony Orchestra Instrument Bank collects musical instruments for these students to use in local schools. instruments donated by generous community members like you. Do you have musical instruments you no longer use? Contact the Maryland Symphony Orchestra today. Donate an instrument and change a child's life.
The DVR. It's changed the way we watch TV. And now, Antietam Broadband takes you to the next level with TiVo. Find your favorites on cable or streaming video faster with voice-activated integrated search. Record up to 6 channels at once and watch from any TV in your home. TiVo from Antietam Broadband. It will change your life. Call today or visit AntietamBroadband.com to learn more.
Join your host, Mark Keller, for this year's Home Show Showcase on WCL-TV. Our video crew went booth to booth, familiarizing you with an elite cross-section of exhibitors and the products and services they offer. Experience it all as we take you up close and personal with Antietam's Home Show Showcase. Tune in weekdays at 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. and every weekend at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. for the Home Show Showcase on WCL-TV, channels 806 and 6, and streaming on the WCL-TV on the Go app available for your mobile device.
You know the difference between a minor fall and a major fall. But do you know where to go when they occur? If you are having an urgent but non-emergency healthcare problem like a minor fall, flu symptoms, or sinus infection, visit our urgent care center. We are open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day. For a major fall and other critical or complex medical matters, you should come right into our emergency department. Now you know where to go.
So glad you're still with us. We were just talking about how things change over time, and that sheds light on how we change too, right? We evolve, we grow over time. I always enjoy asking people about different nicknames that they've had at different stages of their life. Some of them are flattering, some of them not so much, but they're all pretty telling. I was wondering if you guys could talk a little bit about some of the nicknames that you've had during the course of your lives.
Well, I was always known as Angie growing up. I wasn't Angela until I was college. So now sometimes people call me Angie, and it feels like I'm about 5 years old again. So that one takes me back. But my most recent nickname has been given to me by my partners at the recording studio. So it's actually not my recording, it's actually a collective. And okay. I started learning the technical side of audio recording and all the editing, and you got the mouse, you got the screen, you got the Pro Tools, and it's click and drag, click and drag. Well, I'm very fast, and I'm a little too fast for the gentlemen that I work with, and they always call me Miss Clicky. So I'm Miss Clicky in the studio because I'm always, clicking too fast.
That's better than Miss Piggy, right?
Exactly. Miss Clicky, yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Okay, I will tell you the secret. A lot of people don't know that. But
I love it.
Mine is, my name is Anila, but my mom used to call me with 2 nicknames, and my family member as well, but mostly Nina. Nina is with the love, and Nino is with my mom whenever she's upset. So as I was growing up, I heard Nino more because she was always upset. So Nina, yes, less from my cousins, my friends. They used to call me Nina, but now everybody calls me Anila.
Well, that's funny. I could always tell when my mom was mad because she called me Daddy, which is the last part of Bernadette. But when she was mad, it was Bernadette Marie, and she said it in that tone.
I think everybody's doing it.
I didn't use Bernadette until I was like 40 because it had such negative associations. I always thought I was in trouble. How about you?
So growing up, I kind of marched to the beat of my own drum, and there were things that I went through that just kind of challenged me, well, not challenged me, caused me to kind of not listen. Bad behind, and I'm using behind as opposed to the real word that I was using. Bad behind Daphne is kind of what I was told growing up. However, I still own that name though, right? But I've taken that negative connotation and I've flipped it into a positive because, people will see me now and they're like, hey, you're bad behind, right? But they don't mean it in the negative light that it was whenever I was younger. I've been able to take those things and evolve and make that bad behind be really bad, and something that that's something people that want to aspire to be like. So
that's cool.
I suppose I have the fondest memory. My grandfather called me Sticks.
Sticks.
I was skinny and puny and always doing something. And I can always have the fond memory of my granddad when everything was, when he would call me, he'd say, hey, Sticks. And I knew exactly who was calling me.
Oh, that's neat. That's neat.
Cute.
When I was really little, they called me Twinkle Toes McGurk. They said I walked around on my tiptoes. I don't remember that. But in 6th grade, I was the fastest girl runner in her class, and faster than all the boys except Marty Quick and Jeff Richardson.
Isn't it funny how you remember?
I do.
Exactly.
They were the only 2 boys. They called me Minnie Brute. Minnie Brute, and I want to go back and claim
You
that.
still
name.
are. You are still the Minnie Brute. Look at her arm.
You just lifted what today?
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
More than her body weight, right?
My one name that was kind of given to me not too long ago when my daughters were seniors in high school, I think I was a little stricter than some of the other mothers. And one day I said, no, you can't do this. And my daughter Beth just started crying and said, do you know what the kids call you? Do you know? And I said, no, I don't know. She goes, well, do you want to know? I said, I don't care if you want to tell me. She said, they call you Bernie the Jailer. So, I can remember Bernie the Jailer. I can remember thinking, okay, that could be good or could be really bad. When my husband came home, I told him, they called me Bernie the Jailer. He said, that's good. At this point now, I think my kids could laugh about it, but at the time it was
painful for them.
Yeah, somebody had to be the one to say no. So I did want to ask, did you give nicknames to anybody?
That's a good one.
You got us on the spot there. I
Yeah,
did not know that you were
yeah.
going to ask me this. Anybody can go.
We're all in deep thought now.
Wait a minute. What do I want to admit to?
I have not necessarily given nicknames. I've sort of described my grandchildren. One of them was Twinkle Toes. The other one was a Flibbity Gibbet who would swing from the chandelier, The other one is the Free Thinker. One of them is, I have not actually called them nicknames, but I've given them monitors that I can and I have 11 great grandkids, so I can name them all.
Yeah. Oh, that's neat. That's neat.
Well, I can tell you the other 2 men in the studio that I work with, one is Complainer Man, and I hope he sees this because he definitely lives up. He wrote a song about him. He wrote a rap song about Complainer, and the owner is called, his name is Mr. Miyagi, which is kind of like, he's like the bring the hammer down. So,
yeah. Oh my! Did you have something to say, Deb?
No, I was just saying one of the things that I do is I often refer to people as their middle name, or a matter of fact, one of my employees, Jackie, she's got alter egos. Some days she's Jackie, some days she's got a twin sister. So Rebecca Ann. I like Rebecca Ann today. And then sometimes I'm like Jacqueline. So she's got different names for different things.
It's not necessarily nicknames. It's how we categorize people.
Exactly.
Well, when people come and when we get to meet you out in the community, we hope that we get to share some of your stories with you too. And now I'd like to invite you to talk about some upcoming events that you're excited to encourage people to sign up for.
Well, I can make a plug for a belly dance show sponsored by the Hancock, Maryland Arts Council. It'll be at the Hancock Town Hall, the Hancock Arts Council Performing Arts Center, right there in just west of here. But it's going to be featuring a lot of troupes and dancers from this area. So Elisa will be performing.
And
some
what
other
days is
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, that would be April 4th.
Okay,
Saturday night, April 4th at 7 o'clock.
Okay, great. And I wanted to celebrate something or share something that's going to be happening, but not until May. But Bernadette Pleasant, who was on our show last year, is coming back to do a workshop called Explore and Express Emotion Through Movement. She is an international speaker. She's a sensual performer, somatic body healer, and creator of FEM. And I'm sure it's going to be really fill up quickly. The tickets go on March 8th, so check that out. Did anybody else have anything they wanted to say? Any other recommendations? All right, well, we hope to see you out and about in the community. We really appreciate you tuning in today. We wish you well, and we'll see you next time on Prime Time for Women. Live your life full, live big. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.